we're back, and this, I was going to say this week, but it's not really a weekly episode. This is an extra episode, and listen all about it. And we're going to be having a look back at Blue Yonder.
Yes, we are. Yeah.
Yes. So the second of 3 60th anniversary specials, starring David Tennant's 14th Doctor and Catherine Tate as Donna, although I'm sure you don't need me to tell you all of that. So in this episode, at the end of Star Beast, Donna spilt coffee on the new TARDIS console, blew up, and they were
beautiful new console room as well. It was just all shiny, and then bang! Flames everywhere. Love that.
Destroyed in its first minute.
And it's like the flames
time.
Weren't just a little spark. It was like everything was engulfed in a complete inferno.
Yeah.
Love it. Brilliant. Loads of humour there, I think.
Yeah. So then they got flung. Well, first of all, they had a little pit stop, didn't they? And then they got flung to the far reaches of the universe on a spaceship. Yeah, and then discover something on the ship. So we're sure you've seen it, so we don't need to kind of go into detail. What did you think of this one?
I loved it, actually. I thought it was great fun. I thought it was incredibly weird, but I love it when Doctor Who does weird, because it can do weird really, really well. If there's ever a test of the show's strength, if you like, and versatility, then this is a good thing to do it. You literally put your two characters into a tight situation and let them figure it out, set up mystery after mystery, and then put in a bit of danger, a bit of tension, and then gradually have them answer that mystery to provide a satisfying payoff at the end of it, which is great. And to kind of temper that as well, because you just kind of alluded to it, they do a pit stop, which is completely out of keeping with the whole thing, which is bizarre, because it's just a comedy moment, and it's just, why not? That pre-credit sequence where they visit Isaac Newton and they're in a tree, which is bonkers. So you got the TARDIS, which is all flaming inferno, as we said a minute ago, and they stop to literally just set up a joke with Isaac Newton, which is just, it's almost like I can kind of imagine, like, Russell T Davies has had this idea for the TARDIS landing in Isaac Newton's apple tree for years, and he's never had the opportunity to do it. And this time he thinks for the 60th, well, why not? Let's just do it. Let's just go for it. Let's just put it right in there, and it allows him to drop the joke in and slightly disrupt the mavity of the situation as we go through the proceeding events.
Yeah. Yeah, initially I thought they just tacked that scene on afterwards, because he talked in DWM about how, I think maybe it was Shooty's episode or something, they showed it to Disney and they were like, the beginning's not big enough, so they went back and shot it all again. But that obviously wasn't this one. But then I think with the usage of mavity in the episode itself, I don't think it was a tacked on bit, but it because I said to my wife as we watched it, I said, the TARDIS just blew up and now they're sitting in a tree and now they go to a spaceship and it's bursting, fire coming out. I was like, this doesn't quite make sense. So, but it was fun. And
that's it. And I think, sometimes we need those little reminders that as much as we want Doctor Who to be kind of dark and serious, or it's all about having fun as well. It's not just about.
I've said that on
stuff.
here before. No, it's not a show that is is a dark show particularly. It's a family show and with a largely hopeful central character. And I sometimes see people saying, well, one of my sort of quote unquote favourites was someone saying, I want to see the companion die in the first episode and the Doctor go on a revenge quest to then go back in time and undo it. And I thought, I think you've missed the point.
I mean, Doctor Who could do that. There's no reason really why it couldn't.
Yeah,
but it's not the mainstay of the thing, is it? That's not the driving motivator for Doctor Who. It's a family show. It has lulls and larks in time and space. Yeah. And occasionally it throws us with some serious stuff and occasionally with some dark stuff. But more often than not, it's pretty much just about having adventures of any description.
That's
that
it.
is it. It's wide open for that.
Yeah. Adventures in Time and Space, it's literally, built into it there. So this episode, I text you and I said I'm torn.
You watched this before I did. I think you watched this at least a good 12 hours.
I watched this at like...
You watched it at midnight.
1 o'clock in the morning.
After a pretty heavy day as well, where you were really, really busy.
I'd been at a concert Friday night, got back at 1 in the morning, then I had the film festival on Saturday night and got home at about 12:30. And then I watched this, and then went to bed. So yeah, quite busy. But that is my commitment to being able to deliver a podcast review. So yeah, I was torn.
So what were you torn between then? On the one hand, there was something you liked. On the other hand, something you didn't.
Oh yeah,
quite enjoy,
I mean, on one hand,
didn't sit well with you?
I thought the episode itself was really was great. I loved the design of that ship. That long corridor thing with the plates moving, those sort of big piston-y type things. I thought it looked great. I know a couple of people online have said the CG was bad, but it's a fairly ambitious, massive, kind of green screen with camera movement to it and stuff for the show to do.
And the shift was nicely done.
Yeah, a lot of movement to it, and the design looked great, and I think some of the green screen maybe if you're going to be real picky,
but at the end of the day,
if you're going to watch
Doctor Who, and you have to take. You cannot watch it purely for the special effects. I know the special effects these days are of a much higher standard than they used to be back in the 70s and 80s when I started watching the show. Yeah. But they are still, that's never been the big driver to watch Doctor Who. If it is, watch something else, because it's not about the effects. Yeah. Yes, they are competing with the likes of Star Wars and, Marvel and everything else, but they have only a fraction of the budget of those guys. Even with the Disney money, right, I guarantee it is a mere fraction of what those guys have. And for them to pull this stuff off is always tremendous.
I think it looked brilliant. So, that looked great. I love the design of the whole ship, the cockpit thing and the different rooms and all of that. I thought it was very cleverly directed, especially to deal with that kind of amount of virtual set, and the way they handled, multiple characters and hidden with clever cuts and stuff like that. Brilliant. I love the concept of being, at the edge of nothing.
The edge
it's that, my kids have said to what happened, where does space go? What happens? Does it just keep sort of, developing somehow and it's never ending, or is there a point where it just stops? Or so that's quite massive.
I love the way they did that.
Concept.
I thought that was tremendous.
It was really eerie, and also I must say, so. Normally, Murray Gold's music is all like, and very like, tell you how to feel.
Right down,
but this became, he pulled it right down. It became really eerie, a little bit more electronic, and it suited it perfectly. And I really felt that the way like Donna suddenly realised like they could be stuck here. The TARDIS has done a runner, brilliant, and the way the Doctor kind of, was trying to. Sort of reassure her, but slowly he realised we might be a bit stuffed here. So I thought all of that was brilliant. I started to wonder when he was tapping on all the pipes and stuff, and it was cutting between, the conversations and stuff. I was like, something's not right here. And then it was the arms, wasn't it? The reveal. He says, I can't get the arms right. Yeah. And I thought, okay, that looks quite cool. And then he bends over backwards.
Yeah, it's the whole Exorcist body thing.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So I liked all of that. I quite like a little bit of body horror stuff. And I was thinking though, like my kids said, can we watch Doctor Who again? I thought actually I don't think you'll like this one, because I must say it'll freak them out. And also compared to the kind of wham bam of last week, this one started out fairly slowly, really, with essentially two people walking down a corridor talking for a long time, and I think whilst it was good for character stuff, my kids of 5 and 9 would have been disinterested in that. So that's the thing, the show is always trying to appeal to us, appeal to younger people, so it's got a very it's high wire to walk, But yeah, so I thought the sort of no things, as I think they've been called, were really cool. I loved all that, and I was particularly pleased with the mentions of flux and
I thought you might have been.
The sort of, well, yeah, for a number of reasons really, because everyone was like, well, not everyone, but people were like, Russell will erase all of it.
He's already said that
and
he's not going to, though, isn't he? He's
not going to, no. And
a while back, and obviously this was written even before that interview.
Well, it would have been, because I watched Unleashed, and they filmed this a year and a half ago. So so I was pleased to see that, because actually he's been able to use it to develop things with the character a little bit, and inform them, and I think it will play into things with Shooty and Ruby being an adoptee as well. So I thought that was really good. I was pleased to see that wasn't ignored, and actually it was built upon, much like Moffat built upon Gallifrey being destroyed and stuff. The Time War stuff. So that was really pleasing. I think I really liked the sort of sense of sort of isolation and sort of doom on the ship there, and these big themes of being at the edge of nothing and stuff. It was great. The thing I was torn about was this. It was a very good episode, but as a special, this was like Midnight mixed with.
I was getting very strong Midnight vibes from the outset.
Yeah. Yeah, at one point, I started to think, like, this is Midnight, but with just two people on a massive ship, not a little bus thing. And I saw someone online say their headcanon was that the no things were the beginning of Swarm and Azure, which was quite nice, but obviously quite, complex time stuff to have them go back before the Doctor's timeline stuff. But anyway, I thought that was quite a cool thing. And there's a couple of other things, actually, I was going to bring up that people have tweeted about. So I thought, it's great, I've really enjoyed this, but as a special, it felt a bit like, well, this is... Well, and there's another thing that, so as a 60th celebration, it's basically only celebrating one series of the show, but I saw someone online say they felt that it was celebrating what Doctor Who can do and what it could be, and I thought, all right, that's fine. I mean, I wasn't expecting all the other Doctors to turn up, but it is very, very, like, pinpointed at one era, and I think because like with Starbeast last week, because of
Tennant and Catherine Tate playing Dr. Donna, right? So that aims at its series 4.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, basically, and I think let's be honest here. Okay, we could say the 14th.
I'm going to come back. I'm just going to make a note of that, because I'm going to come back to you on that one.
Are you going to say, oh, he's wildly different?
No.
Okay.
You don't know me that well, Sunshine.
So I
am going to say that, yeah. That's exactly what I'm going to say.
Okay. I mean, there are differences, but, it's like 90% the same. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. But I just sort of feel a bit like to say this is the 60th anniversary stuff, I think it's not misleading, but this is more of a celebration of, like that guy said online, what it can do and what it is and everything like that, which I think is great. And so that is more sort of perhaps a way to look at it. Like I said, I never was expecting the other Doctors to turn up, but I also didn't expect that it would just be so laser focused on just this coupling and this time. So that's a bit of a sort of weird thing. If this was a normal series, Starburst would have been the series opener. This would have been Starbeast. What did I call it?
The Mag.
Yeah, that's sweet, isn't it? Yeah.
It's an easy mistake to make. Yeah. Just by the way, we are recording this quite early in the morning for us, which is unusual. I haven't really woken up
we've
yet.
both had really
just about had my
nights,
coffee, so at least my vocal cords are working. But outside of that, I cannot guarantee that anything else will. So we'll see how this goes. Yeah,
makes sense. and I've
Sorry,
lost
we were talking about Starburst.
Yeah, so this episode would feel like it would be like midnight
So
or turn left or something,
mid-series,
3/4 of the
chiller
way.
kind of thing.
Yeah, mid-series. So it's a weird thing, isn't it? Like I said, I feel torn.
Okay.
I really liked it. It did a lot of great stuff, but there's a few things that niggle me. And as I texted you, my biggest thing was now even the enemies look like David Tennant.
Oh my goodness me, Geoff, we
that
really
is
need
my
to
hot
get you
take.
help on this, mate. I've got a few numbers of some people that we can get in touch with. We can walk you through. We can help you
1-800
deal with
Tennant.
this obsession that you have.
Well, no wonder they redacted all the guest stars, 'cause it was just them again. So I suppose if you feel a bit like Tennant is overused on the show, having two of him in it, I was a bit like,
You need to get over that, mate.
at the same time,
That's a
I
bias
know,
in
but
your head.
I don't need to get over it.
But I think if you could, it would help you enjoy the episodes a little bit more, because then you probably wouldn't be
possibly.
torn. You could just take it on
No,
its
I
own
probably
terms
wouldn't be,
for
but
what it is.
I think I don't really like that we've brought back an actor as another version of the Doctor. I think it looks silly having two Tennants in the lineup. I think if they'd gone with it's 10 again, and somehow it's sort of been a weird regressive regeneration, I'd have been like, yeah, okay, but. The 10th Doctor's just been everywhere in the last few years.
I agree with that, and that's one thing I really dislike about that whole kind of worship. It's almost like if obviously I was becoming a fan in my teenage years in the 80s, and it would almost be as if Tom Baker had always been the Doctor alongside Peter Davison and Colin Baker and Sylvester McCoy.
Yeah,
and I think one
exactly,
of the great things that John Nathan Turner did was absolutely 100% insist that whenever Doctor Who was depicted in the media, the current Doctor, he was the one who was first and foremost. The other Doctors
front
were
and centre,
not forgotten about, but they weren't. They weren't put front and centre. I think the only time really was when they did a play. I can't remember what the play was called, which Colin Baker shared it with John Pertwee. But that was the only thing, and I think that was a great thing, and that seems to have kind of slipped, because if you imagine, if Tom Baker, because he was so strong as a Doctor and so popular as a Doctor, and there were so many people who were having a really hard time not just understanding that he wasn't the Doctor anymore. If Tom Baker hadn't have decided to just cut himself off completely as he did,
clean cut it,
and if John Nathan Turner hadn't been so insistent to the media that they promote the current Doctors first and foremost, then we would have had a similar situation to we've got now, where where David Tennant, and it's no fault of David Tennant. He loves Doctor Who and he wants to be a part of it.
He does,
and will always be, even if he could just dress up as a Slitheen and put the foam hat on and everything, he would do it. And I absolutely love him for that. So the kind of worship of the 10th Doctor is not on him, and I struggle to kind of see why you can blame Tennant for that, or at least hold him accountable when you see him on screen.
I'm not blaming him. I mean,
I'll tell you what I think it is with you, my friend, and I mean this in the nicest possible way. I think you're still trying to deal with the loss of Jodie's 13th Doctor. Which is hard,
that's definitely a part of it, and obviously we weren't doing the podcast back then, but I love the 10th Doctor.
I don't really.
I've
never been a massive fan.
No,
of the
you
10th
don't really
Doctor.
like him.
I love David Tennant,
and
but I think the 10th Doctor is more annoying than sympathetic.
I think that the moment he walked out the TARDIS in Christmas Invasion, broke the staff, said you can't get the staff these days. I just thought, oh wow, he's brilliant. And when he crashed through the mirror and winked at Madame de Pompadour, I was like, oh yeah, he's brilliant. And I've said before on here that him coming back, I worried would undo all of that stuff, and it hasn't. And you are right. I have a bias, I guess you'd call it. But I think it's just that the show is more than just David Tennant and RTD, and the this is proper Who claims really, wind me up, to be honest.
That's
and
not
I
on
think that
Tennant, and it's not on RT. It's not on
no,
Russell T
it's
Davies
not
either,
on
to be
them.
fair. That's on the media. It's on fans who want to, who kind of feel that way if they're expressing that opinion, and it's on other fans as to how they take those opinions, whether they allow people the ability to kind of feel them and express them, or if you want to just argue and rage against it. And really, I think what we should all do is just have the conviction of our own opinions, and we can sort of discuss and we can argue, and as long as that's done in a kind of a fun way. I think when it starts to turn nasty, as it invariably does, that's when things become slightly tense, and and it turns the enjoyment factor of the show into something which is the opposite of that.
Well, that's remember that, because I'll come back to that in reference to another tweet. So you're right. I pathetically perhaps struggling to get over Jodie having left, and I don't really care what anyone thinks, but I loved it, and the show was always my favourite show, and then that Jodie and Chris came along, and it just became something else for me. But then with the 10th Doctor being on Time Lord Victorious, in the video games, in the comics, and all of this stuff, it and I know I'm not alone in feeling like the show massively started to rely on him, and was that because they felt that Jodie couldn't, her Doctor wasn't carrying it properly, or whatever, I don't know, but it never happened with the 12th Doctor, it never happened with 11. So now to sort of go back, and we've said before the show should move forward, and I think even though they're saying he's 14, we are going backwards really, but at the same time these stories are great, and it's really good. So I am very torn by it, and I'm aware that it's very silly to say now even the baddies look like him.
I did laugh at that when you texted me that. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, I thought you would, because I was surprised you
I didn't get it. Because you said that you were torn about something. I was trying to guess what it might be, and I came at you with all sorts of suggestions, but that one I never suggested
and I was like, no,
at all.
not that. So it's just it's a bit like obviously I'm a big MCU fan, and the people who want to bring back Iron Man, and it can't be good again without Iron Man and Captain America.
You have to move forward.
That's not true. And Iron Man was great. Downey was brilliant. I don't want to go back to him. It's basically just saying it's not good enough, it's not good anymore without these people, and it's an attachment to things in the past and unable to kind of move forward. Buffy was only good when Giles was in it. Well, that's not really true either. Do you know what I mean? It's that sort of thing, So yes, I feel a bit torn. But what I was going to bring up was sorry,
that's
I'm
right.
talking
Yeah,
loads
I've got
on
my
this.
opinions here.
I've got quite a lot to say.
We need an extra hour now.
I am tight on time today, so this might end up being cut a bit short. Someone online, Sean John PDX, who PDX, he lives in Portland. Hello. He says this episode was exactly why I love the show. Instant classic. There was a fantastic message written into the story. And then he's put some quotes up, and there's a tribe, and they worship it for 100 years, and then they grow up, then they try to burn it. That. Then they get wise, and they preserve it. And I said, is that about the fandom? And he said, exactly. And I thought it was a really lovely sort of, bit of writing there, and Tennant, delivering this sort of fantastical story about, the TARDIS and civilization. But I like that guy's... Sean's reading of it there, that it could be sort of, about fandom and stuff.
That put me in mind. It put me in mind of two things. Firstly, the Big Finish story, The Fires of Vulcan, where the TARDIS is discovered in Pompeii after having been buried there for, how many hundreds of years. But also the Ghost Monument as well, where literally that happened. The TARDIS reappears in a spot every 1,000 years or so, and it kind of builds up so much a city in this thing, but there's the whole race, isn't there? That where civilizations have kind of rose and fell for that race. I love the idea of that. It's also happened as well in a few novelizations. I can't recall specifically, but I'm pretty sure there's some Eighth Doctor or PDAs, the old BBC books that have treated the TARDIS a little bit like that in some ways. So.
Yes, it's I saw someone else online reference Ghost Monument with that, which was cool, and then I saw someone else say that they thought the No Things, particularly when they were having like big eyes and sort of mashed up faces, was a sort of AI commentary, like AI generated art. They always end up with six fingers and the eyes are wrong and stuff like that. So that was an interesting reading.
Type stuff than I never really thought of that, but yeah, that's valid. I think.
As anyone who listens and knows me, I'm a massive fan of AI, and so that was quite an interesting reading. I just want to. Oh, and the other thing I was going to say was it was brilliant seeing Bernard again.
Lovely
at the
Wilf.
end. To see Wilf again. It was only a short scene, but Bernard had filmed bits, but I wasn't. I was kind of expecting he might appear last week, and then I thought maybe they're saving him for the third one. But it worked really nicely, bringing him in here, and it's been great seeing the reaction to him, and he was a good friend of my dad's, so it was nice to see him again. I'm just very quickly going to read a couple of tweets we had before we come to you. So it's so funny the difference. Mark from Mr. and Mrs. Who podcast.
Oh, they didn't like it, did they? I saw that one.
Years. Didn't like it. No, I saw some more about them. Chat Tsunami. I adore the idea of this one and how they kept it all under wraps. They didn't like the goofy effects. It sucked all the horror. I felt it came across as comical. I liked the body horror. I think it the giant arms and stuff, probably like for kids it probably would have been like, oh gross, look at that. So again it's trying to balance that thing between being like
because this goes out
weird,
half past 6 on a Saturday.
Is it half 6
it's
or
not
something?
It's not a 10 o'clock thing, is it? It's
exactly.
a show before Strictly Come Dancing, basically. So you got to be mindful of this stuff. And to be honest, like you said, if your kids have seen it, they'd have probably freaked. So regardless of what we as adults think is goofy effects, fine. It's an opinion, but it's for everybody, really. It's not just for
it's just
those of us who love The Exorcist, which actually I don't.
Yeah.
But it's the Doctor Who is not The Exorcist, even though it might reference it on occasion.
But then there was a tweet from @TalesOfWoe who said, fantastic, pure loony fun with some truly freaky moments. Loved it. So, it's one thing for another. Space, who's at 13th Doctor __ said, there's always a joy going in not knowing what's coming for you, and it was coming for you. Really enjoyed this one. The Doc is so broken, and it'll be interesting to see how 15 will cope with the baggage and pain. I do wish that the episodes were more celebratory of Who overall. And then, I hope I pronounced this right, arseniki.bsky.social. What a wonderfully terrifying episode, not what anyone was expecting, I believe, but what a great intense story. And so on that, they really kind of kept this one secret, didn't they? And I quite like that they managed to do that. And it's somewhat ironic that we've had loads of secrets over the past 5 years, which has been not everyone's favourite, and now we're getting deliberate kind of secret keeping here, and but then, people are like,
I think with this one you kind of have to, because there's not really much in the story. So if you
I think
apart from the robot,
right,
I think that was the only thing that had been sort of not leaked, but it was the image of the robot that was kind of used to promote this a lot. So everyone's thinking, oh, what's the robot doing, all the rest of it. But outside of that, as soon as you say it's like it's the Doctor and Donna alone on a spaceship, or are they, or if you say they're met with some evil version of themselves, what else is there? It's such a simple story to sort of you've got to be careful. You give too much away in this, that's it, it's gone. And I think this story relies a lot on not knowing what's going to happen next. Okay, can I go through my stuff very quickly, right? Because otherwise we're not going to get through this, right? And then I'll just get the that you didn't listen to me. So things that I really liked about this: firstly, sonic screwdriver gone. fantastic. The Doctor's forced to be a lot more inventive, and I thought the whole show was better because of it. I think the whole concept, as you said, of being at the boundary, the end of the universe, was brilliant, and I love the way it was kind of handled as a concept as much it was a physical thing. And there was a little bit of fudging where the Doctor said, well, Donnie, you're going to struggle to understand it because we're trying to relate it in 21st century terms. You need to sort of understand a little bit more science before you can truly comprehend it. But he did it in such a way where he wasn't actually talking down to it. It actually was a little bit.
No.
But it just kind of opens your mind to thinking, yes, we know a lot about the universe and science and everything else, but there's so much more we don't know. And I love the idea of treating the end of the universe, the very edge of it, as a conceptual edge as much as a physical thing. So that was good.
Oh, it was absolutely brilliant.
I loved also, and I said this to Freya when we were watching it, when the TARDIS disappeared, and I looked at it and I said, I put Gatekeeper Paul on, I said, that's HADS, HADS. She goes, what are you talking about? I went, it's HADS, Hostile Action Displacement System. That's what it is. She just gave me a teenager look, and then when it came back later in the episode, she goes, I said, yeah, you see, that's what it is. Love that. So I love it when things like that are kind of brought in from the old series, and there was a lot of that stuff as well. There was some really nice kind of little throwbacks in certain subtle ways to to older stories, and like you said with the Flux thing as well, it was really, really nice to hear that come in. And I do like the way that and it was actually the interplay with the fake Donna, wasn't it, where 14 was kind of questioned or put on the spot and kind of made to self-analyze his thoughts about what had happened. And I love the fact that she asked the Doctor, what has happened in all the years since I last saw you? And I think for me that shows that, and I know what you're saying, I get where you're coming from about lasering in on series 4, but for me that sequence alone shows that these specials are not actually doing that. They're including the team, right? So we have the whole production team. We have Murray Gold and RTD and Phil Collinson and all the other guys, and we have we have Catherine Tate and David Tennant. But I strongly think now, having watched this episode, that's not what they're doing. We are moving things along, and I feel much better about that now, having this episode down. You know what I mean? Because I think the Star Beast was a celebration of a style of Doctor Who, and it pulled something from the past, from the comics, which is celebratory, right? We're celebrating the very start of Doctor Who comic book history, because that was one of the first stories, as we said. We said in the last episode. So that in itself was celebratory. This one, I don't think was celebratory at all. But I hadn't thought of the guy who tweeted us there, who said it's a celebration of what Doctor Who can do, and I absolutely agree with that. I also thought it was probably the cheaper episode as well. And as a mid-season kind of thing, well, that's exactly what it is. It is mid-season, right? We've got a season of 3 episodes, and this is number 2, so it's right in the middle, right? Yeah. So I think that makes perfect sense. I love the idea also, I think you said, of the no creatures, which I didn't realise they were called that, actually. I hadn't really sort of twigged that.
Yeah, I think, someone called them the no things online. Maybe it was mentioned in
was it?
Unleashed or something.
I haven't watched that.
But
again, one of the greatest stories, I think, or some of the greatest villains in Doctor Who have been constructed of primal forces of the universe, and by that I mean things like the Guardians, right, the black and white Guardian, and also the Swarm and Azure, those agents of time, time as a kind of villain and malevolent thing, almost like Sapphire and Steel, and also the Toymaker, the Toymaker and the Eternals, and we had the guys in Can You Hear Me as well, right, Zelim and those guys anyway, who sort of reference the Toymaker and the Eternals, right? So those are forces of the universe from the very beginnings of creation, or maybe beyond the universe. We don't know, something we can't easily explain, and I love the fact that this was kind of in that vein. Those other villains were of that, and also, as we said, kind of referencing Midnight, which again is a kind of unexplained, almost primordial force that the Doctor seems to be battling with. And I love, I've always said previously that Russell T Davies is a brilliant writer because he puts everything on the surface, but I think he's an even better writer when he holds things back. And I've always said that one thing I loved about Chibnall's stories is that there are layers and layers to them. Russell T doesn't tend to do that because he's making making things as accessible as possible to as wide an audience as possible. But in this one, he does hide a few things under deeper layers. You know, there's you know, there's stuff we can see and there's stuff we can physically hear, but there's throwbacks, there's concepts, you know, this whole thing about the edge of the universe and the concept of identity, and you know, and being met with a mirror version of yourself. It's tapping into the kind of subconscious fears that we all have, which again are sort of primordial, you know, primordial in their nature, because we only access the subconscious when we're under the influence or hypnosis or in sleep or having nightmares or dreams, and that wonderfully expressed this. You know, the whole idea of my arms are too long. It's almost like something that David Lynch would have come out with in Twin Peaks or Blue Velvet or something like that. You know, my arms are too long.
Yeah.
You know, the little guys would say that in this room of nightmares and stuff. And I absolutely love this. I thought this is one of the best Doctor Who episodes I'd seen for a long, long time. And I love the fact that for once we didn't have the sonic screwdriver, and I love that actually Doctor 14 here was not Doctor 10. It felt like actually a continuation of 13, someone who's wondering why the hell he's got this face back, you know, and almost like hasn't had time to kind of deal with whatever's going on, and has this massive foreshadowing, this big worry of I'm here for some sort of reason, and something is controlling me, and I don't know what that is yet. So all of that stuff seems to be leading up to this showdown in episode 3 with the Toymaker, who I strongly suspect, no surprise, is going to be behind all of this, from the regeneration to the 15th Doctor. So there you go. That's my thoughts in a nutshell, and hopefully we've still got time for you to do your thing.
No, it's good. Yeah, I mean, and there's also a part of me actually that sort of feels a bit like, you know, I wish this was a bit longer, really, because I had a point over yesterday when I was thinking about it, and I thought actually this 3 episode thing is almost pointless, because you know, he's come back.
3 episodes of Doctor Who,
you know,
in its new stories.
Yeah, but I felt like it's a shame it's not, you know, it's not more, because you know, we've had the Star Beast, they go to a spaceship, then he's going to die in the next one. So, you know, it's all very but
now you're wishing we had more 14th Doctor. Is that what you're saying?
Well, not specifically.
Oh.
No, but you know, more. I just wish this had been a bit longer. So, you know, because they are brilliant together, and you know, off camera as well. They're great fun watching them on Unleashed. It was
I
a
need
bit
to
where
watch
they're being.
those. I watched some of the Star Beast Unleashed, but
it's good. Yeah, they do. It's not just you know, behind the scenes fluff stuff. You know, they do go into things in a bit more detail, and it's quite a funny interview where Tennant and Tate are talking, and then it's revealed that she's had a air cooling pipe thing up her jumper the whole time because it's been so hot on set.
Cool.
You know? So, yeah, so you know, they are really good together.
They are.
And
I
just
love
sort
their
of feels
chemistry.
like,
You know, and I like the fact we have got 3 more episodes with them, because it kind of allows their relationship to move on as well. And I know, you know, it's almost like, you know, imagine if we had 3 episodes with Sylvester McCoy's 7th Doctor and Ace, so we could find out how their relationship progresses at the end of, you know, after Survival. I know we got the little Tales of the TARDIS with, you know, some of the older Doctors and Companions. It would be nice if we had this is kind of the same sort of thing, but on a bigger scale, I think, you know, so we can see what happens.
It is really,
to these guys, you know, given a little bit more time after everything they've done together has kind of ended. I love this.
Because we had a bit of that in Power of the Doctor, didn't we? For you know, 7
and
and
for
8
me,
and
that
stuff.
was our
and,
multi-Doctor
you know,
story in a way. And I'm, you know, I get what people are saying, but it's almost like there is an expectation that we need to have multiple Doctors. They might still come back in the 3rd story.
Yeah,
we don't know. But if they
I'm
don't,
not sure
I'm
that,
not going to hate on it because of that. You know, because my expectations are not met. You know, we've all got our own narratives of what we think should happen.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You start expecting stuff and headcanoning, and then when it doesn't happen, you get
but you
angry.
got to be, you know,
I
you've got to
wasn't
be kind of emotionally intelligent enough, I think. We've all got to understand that we're not the ones writing this. We write what's in our heads. Outside of that, it's purely down to somebody else. So
yeah, exactly. I think they need to tell the story that they want to, and that they think if you like it, great. If you don't, well, maybe there's next week.
Who knows?
And I'm not. I don't necessarily, and I never did think that the doctors would turn up. And I don't really have an answer for this.
This is me addressing the greater fandom, I guess.
Yeah, no,
it's
and
a little bit of old man's advice, don't hold it against them if they don't deliver what you want. You either take it for what it is.
And I agree with that. Yeah, absolutely. I just I don't know how you'd make it more celebratory of the show as a whole without being multi-Doctor. So I'm aware.
But look at the 20th anniversary season, right? It was a whole season of celebrating 20 years of Doctor Who. I think as we said in our anniversary special podcast a little while ago, the 20th anniversary season, every story was quite unique. There was only one element which kind of had a throwback to a previous era. We had the Brigadier in one, we had the Black Guardian in another, but the stories themselves were unique and individual and not necessarily celebratory until we got to the 5 Doctors. That was all out and out, a celebration with 5 previous Doctors and 3, 1 in limbo, and the current Doctor, obviously. So it was, and that was great, and all of that kind of works. And I do wonder if this is a bit like that. So we get 2 stories that are, kind of their own thing, and then maybe the third one, which does bring in a villain from previous, what we haven't seen since the first Doctor.
Yeah.
So 1965,
well, as anyone's
66,
seen,
whenever we saw the Time Maker last. So that's the thing, and we don't know what's going to happen in that yet. So we shall wait and see.
No. Yeah, I think next week will be very interesting to see how 14 gets wrapped up.
I think we might need a longer podcast for that one, mate.
Yes, we
see
might
how it goes.
Particularly if the rumours are
honestly,
are true.
I haven't seen any rumours.
No, I know you haven't. That's amazing.
Just not engaged with any of that at all.
I'll be interested to see what you think of that. Anyway, I'm afraid I'm going to have to depart, everyone. I've got to go to work.
What's wrong with you?
So
crazy man.
Yeah.
Expect to earn money for a living.
I'm going to leave Paul to edit this one and get it all out a bit later.
Jeff's bit is going to be that much. And my bit is going to be that much.
Yeah, yeah. You're going to recut this to
edit
make
it, mate. I've got
it.
to do my job as well. You know what I mean? Oh dear. Anyway, thank you for listening to us, Doctor Who fans. We really appreciate all of you who listen to our podcast and put up with our ramblings. But that's who we are, isn't it? At least. And we just want to put them out there. So thank you for listening to us, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Thanks a lot. Bye.